highly anticipated CFP rankings tomorrow night, but I was actually looking forward to this. Danny Kanell's bracket release even more after the carnage in the SEC. And man, Danny's bracket, it's something else because he's got as many ACC teams in there as SEC teams.
Thing of beauty.
It's 3 from the SEC, it's 3 from the ACC, 3 from the Big Ten with no Indiana, and then 1 Big 12 in Arizona State getting the bye, Notre Dame and Boise. So Danny Kanell is here in studio. Josh Pate is also joining us as well, and that was Josh's first look at Danny's bracket as it would stand right now. This isn't like a projection. I don't think any of us think that's what it's going to be tomorrow night. That might not be what it's going to be when all is said and done.
Exactly.
It's what he thinks right now. Pate, what's your initial reaction?
Oh, it looks like Danny's high on the ACC. Got no problem with that. He's high on Clemson's chances, at least, and where they stand right now. I got no problem with that. I guess my first piece of cross-examination would be, if Clemson is thought of that highly and they go down at home Saturday to a 3-loss South Carolina team that's red hot, what are we doing with the Gamecocks, sir?
That is a multi-million-dollar question that we need to figure out. And if I was projecting, I do think this South Carolina-Clemson game is probably one of the more intriguing games of the weekend for what potentially could be at stake. Clearly, if Clemson wins that game as a 2-loss team from the ACC, I think it really solidifies them at least right in the thick of the conversations. Maybe that first team left out, but also could be the last team in the playoffs. South Carolina, I'm not quite as convinced on them with 3 losses already, and I know a lot of people are making a lot of excuses for them, talking about the LSU game, how there were multiple calls and how Lenore Sellers was hurt in that game and it didn't look the same. The bottom line was you lost that one. So I do think a win against Clemson would go a long way for them, but I do think they would probably be in a similar, probably a little bit of a weaker argument, Pate, of whether they would be in or not, but they do play in the SEC. They have finished strong, and there is very much a recency bias that the committee does have. And if you just watch them the way they've finished out this season, and if they had just beaten Clemson, I think they would have a pretty strong case potentially making the playoff.
Yeah, I keep thinking with the field being 12 and with there being a lot of carnage around us right now, you truly have to see the last week. I know everyone says that, oh, we got to see how it plays out. But you really do, because neither of those teams, well, especially South Carolina, if they win and beat Clemson, it's a moot point. But neither of those teams in all likelihood are playing on conference championship Saturday. South Carolina certainly isn't. That's the last thing you see from them. And if it's emphatic, like they go in there 30-17, they beat Clemson, you know, I would be pounding the table. Considering what the rest of the field looks like, that, hey, that's probably one of the 12 best teams. But that also brings me to my next point, because there's another team that I've kind of got my eye on this week, as everyone's talking about conference championship Saturday already. I'm thinking about Notre Dame, too. Notre Dame, James, if you could show me the bracket one more time and where Mr. Kanell had them parked. I think most people have them bordering on the top 4. They're in the 5th or 6th range right now. And so Notre Dame, Tennessee, they're in the first round. You've got them, I believe. I think they're out. Do you think they're out?
I think they better be out because there's a couple issues I have with Notre Dame. One, that they don't play at a conference, and they were willing to take on this risk and say, you know what, we're totally content not having to play in a conference, not having to subject ourselves to a conference championship game, all the while knowing that their schedule's probably not going to stack up against the other teams that are in the Power 4 conferences, and saying, we'll take that risk. Guess what? Guess what our consolation prize will be? A home playoff game, while we essentially are guaranteed a bye because you're not playing on conference championship game weekend. That is overall in the big picture, but then even more so, that's where I think that Northern Illinois loss comes into play. Because if it was undefeated and you lose to USC, that's one thing. It's across the country. But since that's your second loss, and you don't really have a win that resonates, since, again, recency bias, you have to go all the way back to week 1 when they won in College Station. That game doesn't resonate as much. So I think Notre Dame would be out. And by the way, Pate, I don't know how you feel about that game. I think it's very much in play for the upset. Remember, USC switched quarterbacks, Jaden Maeva, and the point spread would tell you that even though the season has gone so well and Notre Dame has been dominating opponents, and even though USC has been this team that has underperformed, they still have some of the athletes that are capable, more than capable, of making this a tough game.
7.5-point spread. That's the CBS game on Saturday at 3:30 Eastern time. I'm going to jump in here because where is Indiana? With all that carnage and these teams with 2 losses, some maybe even 3 that we're talking about, Indiana has 1 loss.
Indiana's a team that I think needs to play their way back in, and I think they will with a win over Purdue, because we've had a lot of debate about this, where they would end up. I think they're in the long run, but I usually do this. I usually penalize teams with the minute they lose. It's kind of that devastating blow. So they are just on the outside winning in. But I think when a win over Purdue, and I think some of the other games that will unfold this weekend, I do think eventually they will get in the playoff.
Pate, do you agree with that Indiana, because of all that carnage and all these 3-loss teams in the SEC, that all they need to do is beat Purdue and they will be in?
Yeah, but they're still in for me. I'm always the one defending Indiana. Danny's the one throwing them under the bus. That's been well established. I think that as of last week, I was, about 30 yards to the left or right of you guys. I was in that other studio with Kanell, and we were talking about this, and I was the one who actually thought, hey, if they lose by 1 or 100 against Ohio State, they're going to be out. I could not have foreseen what was going to happen elsewhere in the country Saturday. So they did lose handedly. I still think they're in. They would have to screw this thing up fantastically against Purdue to be out. So I can't believe it played out that thoroughly in Indiana's favor, that even after a 38-15 loss, and by the way, Ohio State 2 more red zone trips where they come away with 0 points. They could have hung half 100 on them just as easily as they did 38. After all that, it looks like they're going to get their wish, and deservedly so. I'm not going to have much of an issue with this, because elsewhere, teams have removed benefit of the doubt that they would have gotten from their strength of schedule because they messed around and didn't actually win the games. And contrary to the allegation that's thrown my way sometimes, winning the games still is of utmost importance. It's not the only thing that matters in the equation, in the little blender that we do rankings in, but it is the most important thing.
Well, Texas A&M was one of those teams that did not win their game, but still control their own fate here. If they beat Texas this week, they're in the SEC championship game, opportunity to play their way into the playoff. When all is said and done, Josh, how many SEC teams with 3 losses could get into this thing?
It can't be more than 1. May not be 1, but it can't be more than 1. And when you get into that territory, it's so murky, especially for someone like me who didn't really want expansion a whole lot, that I can't find it. I can't bring myself to fight for a team that's lost a quarter of their games and call themselves being screwed out of a spot. Like, there may be fractions of inches here or there. Your resume's more deserving. But at that point, Chris, we're talking about a 12 seed or an 11 seed, and do you deserve it after losing 3 games? Everyone in that conversation is going to be horribly flawed. And so I think maybe 1 gets in. But you mentioned A&M. The most fascinating concept there is if they win this Saturday and they go and face Georgia as a 9-3 team and they lose that game, I had previously been of the belief that no matter what, the SEC's 2 championship game participants will get in. And I've been of the belief, Kanell agreed with me last week, we've been of the belief that you shouldn't be penalized for losing your conference title game. But here's the caveat to that. I only believe that if you're already in the top 12 when you go into conference championship Saturday. There's a world where A&M could theoretically go to Atlanta 9-3, but not ranked in the top 12. And if they lose to Georgia and the committee doesn't put them in, I don't think that's the biggest travesty in the world, because you're not taking something from them they were otherwise in line to get. My only problem would be if you're a conference title game participant, you're in line, you're in the top 12, you lose and they drop you out. That's where I'd have the big problem. A&M has somehow found a way to potentially thread the needle to lose in the SEC title game, be left out, and it not be a screw job.
See, I think that's a really interesting dynamic. If that unfolds, and let's say Texas A&M loses to Georgia, but they're playing in that game because they just beat Texas, what do you do with Texas, who they had just played? Like, that's...
And what's Texas's best win? At Vandy?
Exactly. So that's where I think there might be a sliver of hope for A&M. Ultimately, I think A&M's only way into the playoff is winning their next couple games. They have to win against Texas, and I think they have to win against Georgia. I do think if they lose to Georgia, they're out. But then does that mean Texas is out also? And then who takes their spot? So it is going to be some wild scenarios.
Fascinating.
And imagine some people around here, some of them on that screen, but they're over there are the ones that said they would not enjoy this season with 12 teams.
Oh, hold on. Okay. No one pushes back on him. They're too scared to push back on him on the internet. Listen, there is nobody, me or anyone else, who said regular season wouldn't matter when the playoff was instituted. We put degrees, we put layers in there. There would be pieces of it that mattered less. And I also said, which you know to be true, but the viewing public doesn't yet, so I'll inform them, that it would take 3 or 4 years into this new experiment before the new normal was in place. We're not through the new normal yet. We can't even assess the damage because the still coming through.
So that's what's going to happen. It's going to get worse, like down the road, and it's not going to be any fun.
Look at Danny. Did you get
it
the
is
upper hand on
awesome
Pate
right
in
now.
this?
I think I did. I think I dunked on him. I body bagged him. That's what happened.
Hey, well, I'll give this to Pate. We're promoting his podcast and not yours here as we shut the door on this conversation. Josh Pate's College Football Show, Tuesday, tomorrow night, and he is going to be headed to the Texas and Texas A&M game